y'all, welcome and welcome back. If you're new here, then you will not know that I am several hours late this morning. I decided to film literally everything in my life, do everything in my life this morning. So the very first episode of mine and my husband's podcast went live this morning. There was a glitch in the link, so no one was able to see it until hours later. By the way, that is up now. I will link it in the description. But so that was super exciting. We were up really late last night trying to finalize everything with that. What else was I doing this morning? Overslept because I took a sleeping pill entirely too late. And yeah, here we are now. It's also Valentine's Day, so there's stuff that I need to be doing today, and we're just behind schedule by a lot of hours because I was supposed to get up at 6 and I woke up at 10. So we are 4 hours behind schedule, but we are getting with it, and I'm just sorry that this episode is late. But anyways, my name is Morgan. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with me. Here we do all things spooky, but specifically this month, every single day, we are doing nothing but reading stories that you guys have sent in to me. So if you have any stories you would like for me to read, please check out the description below. You will find where and how to do that. You'll find my other socials, and you will find that very first podcast episode. And if you don't really like listening to things, you like watching them, it's on YouTube too. So I'll link the Spotify link and the YouTube link. All right, without further ado, let's get into these stories. I've been watching your content for a little over a year now. I've always wanted to send in a story of mine, but was never sure which to send, as my family has always been very well inclined to the other side. Some of the paranormal things that have happened to me happened when I was very young. The only reason I know about them is because my parents and my aunt, but this year I did have something that I feel is well enough to share. It's a long story, and I wouldn't necessarily deem it scary, but it was without a doubt strange and terrifying in that moment. So on Halloween this year, me, my brother, A, my best friend, H, and H's uncle, D, all went to the Bell Witch Cave. I will be going there this year. Anyways, I'm assuming you know what that is, but for anyone that doesn't, the Bell Witch Cave is a location in Adams, Tennessee. This haunting occurred somewhere in the 1800s, and the victims of the haunting were a family called the Bell family. I won't go into detail about the haunting itself because it doesn't really pertain to the story, but that's a basic rundown of what it was. Yeah, so basically, this family moved to Tennessee from North Carolina. They were literally fine on this land that they bought for years, and then they started experiencing things, and things escalated, to which that paranormal case is like the only case in Tennessee history where something supernatural was blamed for someone else's death. I don't know if I've done a whole breakdown of it on YouTube. If not, I can. If I did, I'll link what I've done, but it's one of my favorite stories. When I was around 10, I met a man who wrote 3 books about the Bell Witch, and it's been a dream of mine since then to go. My parents always said no on the basis of we cannot afford that, but now after going, I know that wasn't true. Obviously, I was excited to go, but I went in with low expectations as I truly believe the most haunted places will never be tourist attractions. It's a firm belief of mine that if you tell enough people a place is haunted, their brains will trick them into thinking that there was a paranormal experience. It's all psychosomatic. I will admit I wasn't taking it seriously at first, and during the tour of the cabin I kept thinking, this is ridiculous, and there's no way the witch actually said or did that. Even though I do believe there was a haunting, I didn't and still don't fully believe everything the tour guide told us. Despite that, something still feels off. Now, this cabin was an exact replica. It isn't on the original section of the land, and its original location is still owned by the Bell family. I've attached the picture of the outside as we weren't allowed to take pictures inside. The cabin was an exact replica, minus the roof being made of different material, however, on the second floor. The original flooring from the original house remained intact and was blocked off due to the deterioration of it. After the tour guide told us about the haunting, we were allowed to walk through the cabin. There were mannequins of the Bell family that were set up in their rooms, which was creepy enough. When you go upstairs, there's a flooring safe to walk on and half walls that block off the original flooring from the original cabin. While up there, I am being fully 100% honest. I could have sworn I saw a mannequin of John Bell Jr., one of the sons, move. I played it off as psychosomatic. I thought it was convincing myself something was happening when it wasn't. It was also dark, and I told myself my brain was just playing tricks on me, which is entirely possible. I went back downstairs into a little museum portion of the cabin, which had been added on when it became a tourist attraction. They contained newspaper clippings from the 1800s at the time of the haunting, along with some of John Bell's, the dad's, personal belongings. There was also a section of Native American arrowheads that had been dug up on the property. This is when I found out the Bell family lived on Native American burial grounds. As someone who is not Native, I immediately realized that off feeling that it wasn't just me being silly, it was because I was on sacred land. I tried to push that feeling down and listen to the tour guide as she told us the next portion of the tour would be led by someone else. It would take us to the cave itself. This is when I saw something walk behind her. It was almost as tall as the roof. It was a solid black mass of smoke. I watched it walk behind her, and even though it didn't have a face, I knew it was looking into the museum and at everyone on the tour. It turned and walked into the cabin, then it went to the kitchen for a few seconds before coming back out and standing behind the tour guide. which is where it stayed for the rest of the time we were there. I don't know when it left because shortly after it took its place behind her, me and my group went to the cave. The walk to the cave was uncomfortable. I felt like something was swallowing close behind the entire time. I couldn't tell if it was friendly or not. Usually that means it isn't. So I ignored it and acted like I didn't know it was there because this is Tennessee and we were surrounded by the woods. We made it to the cave and when we went in, I fully felt a deep, sorrowful feeling. Something about it just made me sad. And I could not understand why until the cave tour guide told us something. A young Native American girl was found passed in the cave right in front of where I was standing. None of the local tribes would claim her, so they buried her when they found her. 30 years ago, someone came in the cave and stole her remains. The gravesite still stands, but her body is no longer there. That explained the deep running pain I felt in my heart, and even knowing why I felt the way I did, it didn't help and in fact made it worse. There was another part of the cave for us to tour, so we were handed off to another tour guide. We had to walk single file and crouch down to make it back there because the hall was so narrow. The entire time I was walking back, I felt things: guilt, anger, and sorrow. I understand now after speaking to my parents that these feelings are explainable by one thing: my ancestors. The guilt stemmed from my father's side of the family, who were all white and from Germany and Ireland. The anger, the sorrow was from my mother's side, who were all native. They were originally from this part of Tennessee. Pulling that aside, the back into the cave was somewhat peaceful. The part of the tour was all about the science behind cave systems, and my brother honestly enjoyed it more than I did. However, when the tour was over, that's when things got scary. My family often goes on hikes, and being in a cave was normal for us, so I always make sure to watch where I'm walking, and I'm always very aware of my surroundings and how far I need to crouch down to avoid hitting my head. Well, I was crouched trying to walk under a piece of rock when something grabbed the back of my neck and pushed me forward and slightly up into a rock. I lost my balance and nearly fell down, but managed to catch myself and only ended up with a couple of bruises and a scrape on my hand. But in that moment, I realized there was something in that cave that wanted me out. I wasn't going to piss it off anymore. My first thought after that was I have to get my brother out. So I grabbed his arm and started to push him out in the front portion of the cave, but I made sure to do it in a way that wouldn't alarm him. I felt something following the whole time and definitely wasn't happy. My brother stopped to show me something and I decided for some reason it would be okay to take another minute. And that's when I felt something slam its hand down on my shoulders and pull me back. It felt like fire on my skin, but it wasn't unkind. Whatever grabbed me just wanted me to get out and get safe. Every movement I made after that felt like it was being guided, like something was grabbing my arm when I lifted it to move to my brother, like something was pushing my legs when I took a step forward. This whole time this was happening, I felt another presence behind me. This one was angry, and it was running at me. Something was chasing me out of that cave, and all the while another something was gently pushing me away. Even after making it out of the cave, I felt whatever grabbed my shoulders still there. It's still here, even now as I write this. But that's not a story I need to share. The whole experience was discomforting, and getting out of the cave was terrifying. I shudder to think what might have happened had I not been pushed out, and had I not made it out of that cave. But that's my story about when I was in the Bell Witch Cave. Always, always take things seriously, even if you don't fully believe in it, because something will always be there to prove you wrong. I know that now. I'm sorry if this was long or boring. I wanted to make sure I got everything in one email and didn't leave anything out. I'll leave some pictures of the cave now. There isn't anything creepy in them, not that I noticed, but despite how uncomfortable it was in there, it was still gorgeous and the nature deserves some recognition. Thank you for taking the time to read this, and hopefully I'll see it on your page someday. Safe travels. I think that is the first story I've ever gotten from the Bell Witch Cave, and that made me so happy. I am so excited to visit there, and I am so glad whatever helped you out, because, yeah, something did not want you in there. I do kind of agree with you. I haven't been on the tour yet, but I do think whenever haunted places, I think there's a reason that they were turned into a haunted place, I think, usually. But I think whenever something gets turned into a tourist attraction, it does kind of get blown up into something that it was not, just, to sell tickets. So do I think something happened there? Absolutely. Do I think maybe the tour guides make it bigger than it was? Absolutely. So I see where you're coming from. But yeah, that's always been a place I've never doubted for a second that it was real. But yeah, the embellishments I do believe in. Due to technological difficulties, the Bell Witch story is going to be the only one that I read today. Everything is going wrong that it could, but I am determined to sit here and continue filming for the next few days, so those are going to be extra long. I'm so sorry. I would rather just go ahead and upload the story so you guys have something today, because I really want to upload every single day. But yeah, be prepared for the next few stories to be super long. I am so sorry, but please send in your stories for me to read, and I will see you next time.